I knew when I said goodbye to him that it wasn't goodbye forever and I'd see him again. And when I see him again, he won't be in pain anymore. And he won't be weak. I was 6 years old when my mom passed away.
My mom died when I was 17. She was sick. She had cancer the majority of my childhood.
My dad was sick for as long as I can remember. When I was born, he was just recently diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
I went and talked to my mom. I sat down next to her bed and I told her, I was like, this is what the doctors have told us. They said there might be a solution, but we might have to, go across the country to this doctor's place to try it out. And she just looked at me and she's like, no more. I can't.
My father, who was young and didn't smoke, came down with pancreatic cancer, and within less than 6 months he had passed away.
My father died first. He had arteriosclerotic heart disease, so he had a massive heart attack. And then my mother, she died about 5 months later, and she just had like a sudden cardiac arrest. And I was on the phone with her when it happened, but I didn't know that she had died.
We always had this thing in our family, when you love you more. I believe it was me to him, I love you, and then on my way out the door, I heard love you more. And that was the last thing he ever said to me.
And he was throwing up due to the chemotherapy. I was young and I walked past it and I recoiled and said gross and ran away. Ever since then, that's just replayed in my head since childhood.
There was so many unknowns happening. Like, I felt that it was my fault. Then I realized it wasn't my fault.
I remember walking out of the funeral home, holding the casket, and I grabbed my little brother and I hugged him. I said, I promise you, everything's gonna be okay. Like, I'm gonna make sure of it. Everything's gonna be fine. And I hope I did the right thing. I'm hoping that I was able to do what at least half my mother was able to do for me.
It was Mother's Day, and everyone was like crocheting these like things for their mom, and I was the only kid in class that like didn't. And so then I just like did it for my grandma, which sounds weird. Yeah. So yeah, that's when I kind of understood that like that everyone else kind of had this thing and I didn't.
You never really lose certain memories or certain parts of their personality, and I, to this day, will be watching a movie that I watched with him several times, or a TV show that I watched several times with him, and I can still hear the parts where he laughed.
That void is always going to be there, and it's a part of who I am today, but it doesn't have to like pull me in. It doesn't have to take over me, and it's something that I work on all the time.
I had a therapist for the first 6 months after it happened, because it helps to talk to someone without bias.
I go to therapy. I go to therapy because this isn't an issue that's just gonna like go away. You are going to deal with the loss of your parents for years.
If there's somebody that you care about, you need to let them know. And don't waste time is the biggest thing you learn, because you could be taken today, tomorrow, and 50 years. You don't know.
I learned a lot in those 16 years, and I like cherish those memories.
I always tell my friends, cherish your parents. You never know when they're gonna go.
Cherish the time you had with them and share that with people, because everyone's in it together and we all are going through the same thing. We are in a struggle together, and together we are stronger.
What did you think? That's pretty powerful, isn't it? When people express how they feel, they don't necessarily do that to tell us to fix it, but just to listen can make all the difference. And I don't know these people, but I was listening to what they
and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, this is the way my daddy taught me to do it, to wrap up a knife."
We remember the things that they have taught us. Anything else that stood out to you?
I love you more. Our daughter Michelle used to say that to us when we'd say, "We love you, Michelle. I love you more."
Go a level higher, right? That's good. Anything else? Yes.
I like what she said about cherish the moments that you have with people because we don't know how long we'll have them.
That's right. We don't know if we have time to prepare. That's right. That is right. All right. Anybody else? I don't want to leave anybody out. If not, then we're going to start now with the part of In Loving Memory. So you can come forward. I'll give you the mic, and you can speak into the mic, share your loss, what your loss is, who you are remembering, and then you can light a candle if you brought a picture. Who would like to go first? Anybody? Becky? Nope. Arlene. Okay.
I have two remembrances this morning. One is for my son who passed away almost 9 years ago at the age of 52. So this picture actually has him with his family. It's the only one I had down here with me. And the other one is from my dear Ben.
And then you have the right there, yeah. Maybe. No, you can do two. It's not a problem if you like. Thank you. Who would go next? Becky?
I also have two. Ralph's 5th year will be the 24th next week. 7 days, it's been 10 years. Sometimes it was just yesterday. Also, this past year, I've lost 10 friends, some of them close. But most of all, I had one sibling, my brother, and he passed away in May. And then yesterday, I had to put my cat down, and she'd been with me for 18 years.
Thank you, Becky.
This is my husband, Cardi. He was a very humble, kind, patient, and loving man. He loved the outdoors, and he was a wonderful family man.
Thank you. Doug, do you want to go?
I'm going to speak later, but this is my brother Richard. That fish in there is not photoshopped. That's a fish he caught in Lake Erie. It's a walleye. He's a great fisherman, a great guy, and I miss him a lot. I'll talk to you later. And I don't have a stand for this, so I'm just going to lay it down here somewhere.
Thank you.
This is my husband, Norm, who left us almost 7 years ago.
What is that uniform that he's wearing?
He was fire marshal.
Hi, I didn't bring a picture because it was just a large one. My son was killed about 26 years ago, and I still miss him.
Did you still want to light a candle? You can still do that if you like. Thank you. Alden, Sharon.
This is my daughter, Michelle. What I'm finding is I think more of her now. I rate her more as a Christian than I did when she was alive. Makes me disappointed that I didn't recognize earlier what great qualities she had. She became a nurse practitioner, practiced 6 months, developed cancer very quickly, passed away.
I was a stepmom, and she called me Mom. She passed away the weekend. Her youngest son graduated from high school, and we just missed her. She ended her life just before we got there. But we had talked hours and hours on the phone. That was her connection to all of us. She says, please don't interrupt me because I can't talk loud. So we just listened a lot. And she was such a blessing, and I loved her.
Thank you. Terry.
This is my husband, Bob. We were married for 50 years, and he passed away about 4.5 months ago.
Thank you. Corinne. I'll stand right here with you.
This is my granddaughter, Betsy Conley Anderson. She was killed in a bus accident 30 years ago.
Thank you.
I brought two. The first one is my husband. He passed away a year ago, November. And it's a picture of the last birthday we celebrated together. And he's got our little rescue dog that we had for about a year. And he still keeps me a lot of company, my little dog Rusty, it's what we had named him. The other one is my mom. She passed away in March. She passed away the morning of my husband's celebration of life. And one of my sisters said that she waited until Greg was up in heaven, so he'd be there waiting for her to help take care of her.
Thank you. Okay.
Didn't know I was supposed to bring a frame picture, but I had this in my wallet, a picture of my husband and I, and we were married 44 years. He passed away 7 months ago. Very kind, loving, patient husband. He was a pastor, and just enjoyed, he was a lot of fun, enjoyed being with him and the years we had.
Thank you, Pastor. This is my sister Dorothy, my oldest sister. She became the matriarch of our family. We lost our mother early, and she was just full of life, full of love. People were just attracted to her wherever she went. She was one of my greatest supporters in the theater, always wanted to know what I was doing, and would come down here, and actually she came to church here, just loved being here. Got to meet Becky and really became part of the family just with one visit to our church, but that's what happens here. It happened to me. A little anecdote, I was on Golden Pond, I was playing Norman, the father, And Norman was a crusty little guy, and he would swear occasionally in the play. And I asked my sister on the way home, how did she enjoy the play? She said, oh, it was just wonderful. She said, but Jack, did you have to swear that much? I said, it wasn't me, it was Norman.
Anybody else who would like to come forward? I don't want to leave anybody out. You take your time. This is not something we rush through, you know, so.
This is my husband, John. I met him in Germany, my hometown, in 1957. We got married in 63, and he was a great fisherman. He served his country for 27 years. So I've been around in the country, been around the world, you might say. He was a good fisherman. He was a good man, good husband, but very stubborn. So I always had to give in. We were married 43 years, and he passed away in 2007 here in Florida. And I miss him a lot. He was a handyman, and I didn't know how much money he saved me, but now I know. He was a good man, and I miss him very, very much.
Thank you.
This is my husband, Bob. I just lost him last year. I met him when I was 16. We got married. I was 17. He just had a heart attack, and I miss him a lot. Very lonely at home.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yep. Ella.
This is my love sister. She has passed 2 years ago.
Thank you. Yes.
I didn't bring their pictures because their pictures are planted right here and in here. First husband was just under 40 years, And I attributed him to being very much the person I am today. He was so supportive of anything I ever wanted to do. And strangely enough, a year after he passed, I met my second husband, who was Southern to the bone. The first one was from New York City, and the second one was Southern to the bone and bigger than life. Some of you knew Jim. Don was the first one, and Jim was the second. They both left a tremendous impact on my life. And you never forget them. And as time goes on, the person you are, you realize how attached you are to what that relationship was and what they did for us, made us who we were. And I never would be who I am today if it wasn't for the life I had with both of them. Some of you know my third husband. I know people sometimes say you better make sure that you go before this one or there's going to be some big questions. And I've told that to David as well. And he is a blessing from God. And I never was planning to get married again, but all three of these men have been so important in my life. And we all still think with sorrow of losing them, but we are who we are because of them. And we have to find purpose to move forward, and hopefully that will give me the way to help others. And he talked about a mother. I lost my first husband, and within 8 months, my mother, and the wonderful little dog that I had at the same time. And it's strange because after losing two within that short time, the dog was one of the hardest for me because that was unconditional love, and the dog was there for me. Had a reason to come home, had a reason to take care of the dog. So I heard of a couple of you with pets, and pets can be very difficult too. And I think this is a great place to be. I thank Pastor Attila for this because it's really important to have a place where you can go and know that you're not alone. And we know we're not alone because the Lord is here, but we're not alone because other people have the same issues and we can help one another.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay. Anybody else? You know, if along the way you change your mind and there is somebody, we can do that anytime in between. Also, I'm going to light a candle in memory of my dad. His name was Laszlo, a very Hungarian name. And he died after a lengthy illness only at 62. In many ways unexpected. And that was in 2002. And somebody said, I don't know who it was, that how quickly time goes. And every time I stand at his grave side, I think, where have the years gone? That's a long time ago already, but yet I feel it was just yesterday. I learned a lot from him. He was a strict man, very disciplined, and I learned a lot from him. Okay. We just recently came up with this logo in our church. We had a group of people that put their artistic talents together and thoughts on how to express what our church is all about. And we believe that a church is a place where you should find healing, where you would be nurtured, and where you can grow. And I thought that might be really important to share with you at the beginning. And because this was a little bit of a tough time, we're going to watch another brief video, and then we are moving on.
So what do we do about all the pain we see in the world? All the pain we feel in our own lives? And why does it seem like our best efforts to help somebody feel better always backfire? I've been studying intense grief and loss, baby death, violent crimes, accidents, suicides, and natural disasters. And I've learned something really interesting. Cheering people up, telling them to be strong and persevere, helping them move on, it doesn't actually work. It's kind of a puzzle. It seems counterintuitive, but the way to help someone feel better is to let them be in pain. This is true for those giant losses and the ordinary, everyday ones. Educator Parker Palmer writes, "The human soul doesn't want to be advised or fixed or saved. It simply wants to be witnessed, exactly as it is." He's talking about acknowledgement here. Acknowledgement is this really amazing multi-tool. It makes things better even when they can't be made right. For example, somebody's struggling. Their baby died, or there's been a bad accident, or their mom got sick, and they're just sad. It's way more helpful to join them in their pain than it is to cheer them up. But here's what we tend to do instead. "You have 2 other children, you need to find joy in them." Or, "You know what you need? You just need to go out dancing and shake it off." Or, "I felt really sad once. Did you try acupuncture?" We're not really sure what to do with someone's pain, so we do what we've been taught. We look on the bright side. We try to make people feel better. We give them advice. It's not like this is nefarious. I mean, we try to cheer people up because we think that's our job. We're not supposed to let people stay sad. The problem is, you can't heal somebody's pain by trying to take it away from them. Now, acknowledgement does something different. When a giant hole opens up in someone's life, it's actually much more supportive to acknowledge that hole and let pain exist. It's actually a radical act to let things hurt. It goes against what we've been taught. In order to really support you, I have to acknowledge that things really are as bad as they feel to you. If I try to cheer you up, you end up defending yourself and your feelings. If I give you advice, you feel misunderstood instead of supported. And I don't get what I want either, because I wanted you to feel better. It's pretty rare that you could actually talk somebody out of their pain. Rarely does the admonishment to look on the bright side actually heal things for someone. It just makes them stop telling you about their pain. It's so tempting to try to make things better. When somebody shares something painful, it's much more helpful to say, "I'm sorry that's happening. Do you want to tell me about it?" To be able to say, "This hurts," without being talked out of it, that's what helps. Being heard helps. It seems too simple to be of use, but acknowledgement can be the best medicine we have. It makes things better, even when they can't be made right.
So tell me, what did you think about that? Was that a revelation? Yeah, isn't that what we want to do? We want to right away fix it. It has to be better, and what can I do to make it better? So in what's been said in this cartoon, what are some of the things that stood out to you or that you could really identify with, maybe in your own experience? Yes, Doug.
I hate to go to funerals. I hate to go to hospitals. It makes me feel very uncomfortable. My experience on doing that is a funeral especially. You're in a receiving line, and you've usually got a few minutes to think about what you're going to say when you get up to talk to the person who has suffered the loss. And, you know, I've got things going through my mind. And usually I get up there and stammer something stupid like, "So how's it going?" You know, and you after you say it, you expect the person to say, well, how do you think it's going? I just lost my wife or my husband, whatever. But, you know, this is very good for me because I never realized, I always thought that I was supposed to be the supporter, the guy who's going to make all things better, make them feel better. And to realize that doesn't help at all, and just let them suffer in their loss, to me it's a very good message.
I agree. And what was the word? Acknowledgement, that's right. So I'm sorry that it's going on, right? And then what does that give? It gives the person the liberty to talk about it. Yes, Doug, were you going to say something else? Okay. Anybody else? What else stood out to you where you felt like, yeah, I've experienced that, or I've had the same thing happen to me? By the way, you're not going to just see me stand here and talk to you for 5 hours straight, but I'm going to get you involved. This has to be interactive. It can't just be, you know, me lecturing here. I don't want to do that. But we need to exchange. We need to talk about this. What is it? What has it been like for you? Okay, very good.
After I lost my granddaughter, I went back. School told me I didn't have to go back to work, but it was in May, and I thought it was best to go back to work. So the first morning I was in the kindergarten, one of the mother helpers whose child was in that class said to me, "Everything happens for a reason." Well, I didn't know whether to smack her or tell her where I thought she ought to go, but I just turned and walked away. Such a stupid thing.
That's right, because your pain was so deep, and yeah, absolutely. And it kind of goes in line with what Doug said. We want to do the right thing, and we want to say the right thing, but the pain is so deep and the experience is so radical that no matter what we're going to say, even if it's the right thing, the timing might not be right? When we say it, or even the person just might not be ready to receive it yet. You know, I mean, people can tell you all kinds of things when you're going through that pain, and I've heard it said that many people will not remember what has been said to them unless it's something negative, but they will remember who came to the visitation. They will say, "Oh, I remember so-and-so was there." My mother to this day remembers who brought what kind of flower to my dad's funeral, or what people wore. She even remembers that, you know? So we do remember some of those things, and we do remember also the negative that's being said, and we don't want that.
After Ralph passed away, we did not have Pastor Attila here at the time, and though people were very comforting, I felt that I needed, but at the same time, I held a widow's luncheon at my home, of which I did for 3 years. And many of you here have come. And I think that that was a type that we didn't have to say a word. We were there, and we were there for each other. And it was a form of acknowledgement, and we could say what we wanted to. We are so blessed now, though I miss my lunches, to have Pastor Attila and his grief. I don't go every time now, but I'm welcome, and I go when I feel the need.
Thank you, Becky. Yeah, and you know what you were saying about the lunch. If you wanted to talk, you could, but if you weren't ready for that, just being with other people who know what you're going through is very important. But so remember this word, acknowledgement. And that's the one thing too, is once we walk in these shoes, we are way more sensitive in trying to help other people in an effective way. Anything else that stood out to you in this video? Yes, Barbara.
The one thing that I noticed when my son died, it was hard. People didn't want to talk about him for some reason. And it's that way today, someday.
Yes. Yes, you do need to talk about the person. Call them. What was your son's name? John. So we're talking about John right now. Tell me a precious memory to you.
He's just a sweetheart. Every time he came over to my house, he'd take my glasses off and clean them for me.
Okay. good memory to have. Wonderful. So, but I do want to connect to what you just said, that's really important because it shows you that he has not been forgotten, but that others are remembering him or remembering their memories about him. And at funerals or at memorial services, celebration of life services, those times, I think, in the service where family members and friends come forward to share stories are so important. And if a family, for some reason, wants to steer away of not doing that, I try to talk them into it. And the reason why is because they might hear stories that they have not known or they have never heard before, and it will bring comfort to them. So that's very important. And Cindy, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say that in defense of people who don't bring up the lost person's name and identity, I think for myself it's because it makes us feel, it puts a lump in our throat, and we don't know if we're hurting you by not saying the right thing. It's not that we don't want to, but we have a loss too for you, and I just think that that's part of it.
Yes, that is true, and that is most likely why we often don't. But yet, for the one who has experienced a loss, it's so important that the name is being mentioned. Yes, Arlene.
I found it very difficult when people will say, well, how are you doing? What do you respond to that? That's got to be one of the hardest things because I'm hanging in. What am I doing? And that's exactly how you feel. You're just hanging there.
Before I come to you, Becky,
I'm going to share with you my second husband, Jim, who some of you know. When he knew he was not going to be around too long, he said, as long as my name is mentioned and things that we've done, I'm still here. And I thought that was really terrific because David, who is my present husband, we talk about Carol, his wife, okay, and there's things that, and they're, believe it or not, 59 years together before she passed away. And I'll be cooking something and I'll say, well, this is the way Dawn liked it done or something like. And Dave is so good about that we talk about these people because they really were so much a part of our lives. And I think it's sad when you can't. And like Pastor said, you go to funerals and you bring out things about them that were wonderful. And yes, we miss them, but it's also we miss all those wonderful memories. And as long as we can say those memories, it is healing. And you try to surround yourself with people who understand what you're going through and don't expect you to be perfect. And they'll just be there to help or, put their arm around your shoulder and say, yeah, I feel your pain. Maybe I can help you that way.
Yeah, it goes back to the word acknowledgement, not trying to fix it necessarily. And, to Arlene, I just, maybe if I can just say it, just being very straightforward and saying, I'm doing terrible is an okay answer. We don't, and you see the thing is in church too, we have that, almost that drive at times that we have to put on a front because we don't want to upset other people, we don't want to be a burden, and all kinds of things. And, to just say, no, today I'm not doing very well, then people can rally around you and pray for you. Beck.
I think people say, how are you feeling, because they don't know what to say. But the fact that they asked not to take offense, because I think they basically pretty well know you're not doing well. And I think it's because they don't know what else to say. And speaking, remembering a loved one is so important. And because Ralph was a member here for 14 years, that his name often comes up. And there'll often be a laugh and saying, do you remember when Ralph did this or that? It's very comforting. But the one thing that I sit in the same pew every Sunday, it's not that I don't want to move around and sit with other people, is that he had a beautiful voice and he sang the Lord's Prayer, and anyone who sat around us will still comment on it because I hear him sing that every Sunday.
5 years, yeah. And you know, I want to add to that too, that the fact, and Becky is right, we say those things because we don't exactly know how to put it into words or how to approach someone who's going through grief. But just recently I read somewhere that if you see a person sitting, let's say, in the sanctuary by themselves and they just had loss in their life, you know about it, just to sit down next to them and be there. You know, you don't have to say anything, just to say, it's good to see you, and you know, if you feel they're open, give them a hug, or just sit with them and let them know that you are present. That's a way. But Sharon?
Taking off from where Cindy was, we just recently lost Charlie Marcus. Helen and I have been like sisters. We're just the best of friends. And I find myself grieving for her. Yes, I miss Charlie, but I'm grieving for Helen, who is in pain. And so I spend time, and we're in silence. And once in a while, most of the time, though, she's just very quiet. And that's not like Helen at all. But I want to be with her. I just want to keep her company and just share the time. And so a lot of times she gives me things to do. I work hard when I'm over there. And I do a lot of things, but it's in silence mostly. And I just hope and pray she knows I love her and that I do care deeply and I'm there for her. But a lot of times it's just in silence. And I call her on the phone and, hello. That's not Helen at all. And it's not the way I knew Helen. But I know, and it's not natural to me, I want to fix it, I want to help her, but I can't. There's nothing I can do except just be there. And I like the part where the little bunny just walked into the bear's space. That's all he did. And it really does help, I hope and pray.
And you know, it really goes in line with Scripture. The Scripture says, you know, bear one another's burdens and in this way fulfill the law of Christ. That's how you fulfill the law of Christ, by helping the other person, carrying that burden, whatever that might look like, you know, whether cleaning their home and in silence doing things or just sitting with them. Yeah, very good. Yes.
Well, I think, Pastor, what you said about, you know, sometimes if somebody asks us, you know, how are you doing, and we don't feel too good about it, we need to tell the truth. And I did that over at our church, Trinity, and we were having a Sunday school class about Advent, and we were talking about Advent, and the teacher said, you know, how do you feel about Advent? And I said, and I spoke up and I said, I'm really not looking forward to it this year without my husband, you know, and everything, you know. And then I felt like people just did surround me with love and prayers and caring. So it was best for me to be honest, you know.
I agree. And that's a decision that you probably will make before you get there. So in church, because you have to prepare yourself for it when you are going through the loss, that you can just say, today I'm determined, if somebody's going to ask me how I'm doing, that I am going to be, you know, all geared up with dishonesty and say, no, I'm not doing that great. And not expecting other people to really have a solution for it or fix it, but to acknowledge that part, that it's not going well. That's good. I'm glad you were able to do that. Yes.
Getting back to people remembering people, I remember at my husband's service, we asked anybody if they wanted to say anything, and the grandchildren thought they would, but they weren't sure they could. And they said, do you want to know what we're going to say, Grandma? And I said, no, whatever you say, it will be fine. But I couldn't believe all the memories and the good things they said that made me feel so proud. And I knew they loved their grandpa.
Very good. And this his service. Yes. Okay. Yeah, because you had one here and then one up in Vermont, right?
We had one family up there that some of the grandchildren were there that couldn't be here, and a daughter up there that couldn't be here, and so they did speak up there too, and they did very well.
I do remember one of your son-in-laws shared, right? Wasn't...
We had Tyler and Sarah and Sally and Aaron and our son-in-law and our daughter that spoke here. I might be missing. Yes, there were two other granddaughters, Rachel and Maggie, and they all spoke, and I'm very proud of what they said. They knew their grandpa loved them.
Okay. Yes, Corinne.
You know, I read somewhere a long time ago that when you write a note of condolence to a friend, it's always a very good thing to tell the grieving person a pleasant memory that you have of the one that passed away. And I think that's something you can do through the mail, and then they'll think, oh, well, Corinne remembered this and that about that person, which was always helpful to me.
Yes, and the good thing about that is that the person then can put those in a drawer and can take them out when they need to read it, when it brings comfort to them. So it's something that they will have. That's good. Anybody else? No? Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. And this is my goal, that throughout the day, we will have always times like this where you can, just anytime during the presentation as we go on, feel free to interrupt me. This isn't, that we have to just, quickly go through anything. Just if something, because we're talking about grief triggers. Who can tell me what a grief trigger is? That's exactly right. You never know when it happens. It could be connected to a food you're eating, or something you experience throughout the day. You're driving by a store, or it could be a lot of things. And those are called grief triggers. I want you to pay attention today to triggers as you hear things and say, oh, I can identify with that because it has happened to me. And then just interrupt and share what you have to say, okay? Let's see. We had that. And now we're going to have a coffee break. Stretch out a little bit. If you need to use the restrooms, they're in the back behind you, and there's restrooms also here. So we'll be back at 1:45 in 10 minutes.